Stage, prepare the way, 7 o'clock, I'm singing, Lord, hallelujah, let the whole world see the greatness of our God, in awesome wonder, He reigns forever, we know the greatness.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle Youngman, and I'm the Executive Director here at Christian Music Broadcasters. We're so glad you're here with us. We are here in Florida. Brittany Watley's here with me. We've got some great things in store for you for this wonderful webinar. Thanks for joining us. Before we get started, we're going to turn it over to Andrea Hirth, who's going to fill us in on all things related to Andrea Hirth. Well, not all things.
Which, let me tell you. Hi, guys. I hope you're having a great week. And I'm just going to jump right into it because we have so much coming up. So first things first, our Chicago Momentum Summits are 2 weeks away, which is nuts. Registration's going on now, but it will close this Friday. So if you are planning on coming to our Chicago Summits, please make sure you get your registration done by Friday. The Leadership Summit will be on Thursday, April 25th. And then the Future of Radio Summit will be Friday, April 26th. We're really excited about everything that we have planned for those, so we really hope that you are able to attend. So next is Momentum. I know it feels like it is so far away, but it really is just around the corner, which is, again, just crazy. So if you know that you're going to be attending, go ahead and sign up today. It'll just be one more thing you can check off your to-do list. Silver member registration is $5.99. Non-member registration is $8.25. And gold members, you probably can recite this in your sleep because you've heard me say it so many times. Your registration is free, but we do still need you to go ahead and register for Momentum and also for those Chicago summits if you're planning on attending. So next thing is our CMB Tech Survey. Every year, CMB partners with Jacobs Media for the Tech Survey to bring all participating radio stations info on how your listeners are engaging in technology. So if your station would like to participate, we need you to register by May 9th on our website, cmbonline.org. Underneath the resources tab, you'll find it'll say CMB Tech Survey, and that's where you can go sign up. So with a CMB membership, you do get a $250 discount, which is awesome. Also, gold members, you can, just a reminder, you can see the 2018 results on the gold member protected page on our website. So if you have any questions about anything tech survey related, absolutely feel free to reach out. So, and last but not least, we're happy to announce that on March 25th, we launched CMB's newest initiative, CMB University. CMBU will take place November 8th and 9th in Nashville. And it's basically for those of you who haven't heard anything about it yet or haven't seen anything, it's where all the top industry professionals, students, professors will come together under one roof, and we're so excited about being able to pour into the future of radio through these students. So if you have any college students in your life that you think would benefit from attending CMBU, definitely send them our way. We would love to have them participate. So all pricing, dates, and info about everything that I've talked about is on our website, cmbonline.org, or if you have any questions at all, as always, feel free to reach out to me, Andrea, at cmbonline.org. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrea. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Brittany Watley. She's going to tell us all about CMB events coming up. So I'm just going to turn the computer to her.
Really not turn it over. Just slide the computer down. We are here at the home of Momentum 2019 Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort. And it's good to be here, but I'm running around asking for more coffee, and the event that's currently in our space is like, who are you and what are you doing? But there are so many great things in store for Momentum this year. We're super excited. Lots of new stuff too. It's 3 full days this year. We're actually going to be doing early check-in on Tuesday evening. We have a celebrity game night. Lots of new stuff in store for you. So we're looking forward to all that. Plus, we're constantly adding to our website more speakers. Thanks to Carrie Kate. She's been working really hard with our leadership team to bring you some top-notch speakers. So check out who's already coming. there's more. Literally, you could go back probably every week at this point and see something new. Check all that out at cmbonline.org. But the biggest thing is you do still have time to register for our last summit of the year in Chicago, the Leadership and Future of Radio. We have awesome stuff coming at you on April 24th and 25th. I have a whole list of notes, seriously. Rick Dunham's going to be talking about what the future holds for the consumption of Christian music radio compared to other Christian media. We also have Mark Maxwell who's coming, who's going to be giving his take on servant leadership and talking about building relationships and being and serving people versus networking. And so lots there, more speakers, inspiring performances. Plus, we're kicking off the summits with the Cubs game. Go Cubs. They're playing the Dodgers, and that's all thanks to NRB MLC. That's going to be on Wednesday night. There's still time to join us. We look forward to seeing you in Chicago and then at Momentum here in Orlando. Okay, I'm going to slide the computer back to Michelle.
This is the way we're doing it today. So anyway, hey, so we wanted to give a big shout out to Mark Ramsey. Mark Ramsey is sponsoring our webinar today. And so if you haven't had a chance to, go check out his website. It's mrmchristian.org. And he actually has a email he sends out periodically. It's called Faith Bright. He just sent one out earlier this week. It's great information for Christian radio stations as he continues to do in-depth research and strategies for Christian broadcasters, and specifically focusing on our format. And so he's actually getting ready to do a research project that he's going to present at Momentum. So we're super excited to see what that's going to look like. But more of a what's the mood and temperature gauge of our industry as it comes from a perspective of our individuals working at stations. And so anyway, he's really excited about this. We're excited. But please go check him out, mrmchristian.org. Okay, so I am going to turn it over to Lisa Berry. Lisa's going to introduce you guys to our wonderful hosts today. And can't wait to hear all the great things they're going to be talking about on how to have our funny as a part of our on-air stuff that we have going on. So, hey, Lisa, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Michelle. This is so fun. I've been thinking about this for the longest time because I'm not sure if you ever heard somebody say, if you've got a morning show, it better be funny. And that always freaked me out. Even though I wasn't on a morning show, I thought, well, if that's true for mornings, it's really true for any day part. And I'm just not naturally funny. But what I've learned is over the years that there are ways to make a show funny without being a comedian. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We've got Wally from The Wally Show and Amy from Steve and Amy in Austin, Texas. And so, Wally, I see your face there.
Yeah.
Yay.
Sorry, it's not a better face.
Well, it's a great face, and we just love your show so much. And Amy is here too. Amy, are you there? There you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Amy, I want to start with you because you said a similar thought to what I said, and that is you don't feel like you're naturally funny.
Yeah.
So kind of unpack that a little bit. How have you dealt with the fact that you are on a very popular morning show, and yet you don't feel like you're funny? How does that work?
Yeah. I think what you can do when you're not funny is you start recognizing funny. Steve, my partner, he is really funny. I think a lot of times he doesn't know that he is. And so he'll do something or say something, and for me, I feel like it's kind of my job to say, no, that's good. We need to delve into that. And then we try to kind of go from there. Because he's kind of natural with the quips and really quick observations about things. And I'm like, oh no, we should use that. I mean, he's just kind of commenting on something off the air. And so it's just kind of recognizing it, I think, is really becoming keenly aware of, oh, that made me laugh. So let's try to use that.
I love it. Well, I want to share a little bit of your audio, and I think people love that. So you're going to see my screen here in a second. And by the way, as you listen to the webinar here, adjust the volume yourself on your own speakers because it could be a little bit loud. So listen to this break from Steve and Amy.
I actually just got an email from Pottery Barn.
Yep.
And it says, Pottery Barn misses you.
Aw.
That is the
You
kindest
must
thing.
have a history of spending a lot of time there.
That is really sweet. They miss
You
me
need to
though.
go see that. You need to go in
I
to
should.
Pottery Barn and say,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been so long.
Get over
Who
here.
wants a hug?
Can you hear? You're hearing it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, good, excellent. Because also I thought you should be laughing. This is so funny.
It's kind of it's low, but it's okay.
And you can't laugh at your own jokes. That's
Yeah, no,
like
that's
that.
inappropriate. Totally inappropriate.
Yeah, I love that because look at how you took something that was so simple, like something you got in the mail, and you just were able to turn it into something really adorable and cute and slice of life, and then were able to unpack it. So tell me about that process of how you took that idea and then what happened between then and you're actually bringing it to air.
Well, I think for me, it's funny now, Wally and I, we're probably both, we each get our show coached by Tommy Kramer, and he's really great at really kind of getting rid of cheesy stuff. And it's interesting because I feel like I have a very cynical side that a lot of people may not suspect of me. But on the inside, I'm a little cynical. And so I'll see ads from places that I've gone shopping with, and they're trying to make it personal, right? So they're sending me something and they're trying to act like, oh, we really care about you. And so immediately when I saw that ad, I was like, I think that there's something we could probably do with this. And so I just kind of throw it at Steve, and honestly, it kind of works through sort of organically, because I'll say something to him and then we sort of do this sort of pseudo break, I guess, where we sort of talk it out a little bit. And then if we have like a place to go with it, then we're like, oh, okay, that's going to be our destination. Sure. Then we know we can go ahead and jump into it. And we both know where we're kind of working towards and kind of push each other that way. So yeah, it probably started with, just kind of seeing something and being a little cynical about it and being fun with it.
Excellent. I love it. So Wally, now you're somebody that we all look at and be like, oh, if I could just be more like Wally, if I could just be that funny.
You don't want that headache.
Okay, I'm going to start out playing a break and then I want you to unpack it afterwards. Here we go.
Show. The Wally Show. Happy to be in your friend zone.
We tell Betty Rock all the time how lucky she is. She can eat anything she wants to and never gains weight. But I never really thought about how that could actually bother somebody. I just always kind of meant it as a compliment because I think it's somebody that kind of struggles with weight. I think we're all a little jealous of Betty, actually.
Yeah, it is a double standard that fat people can tell skinny people they need to gain weight, but skinny people can't tell fat people they need to lose.
How does this make y'all feel? My last doctor visit, my doctor told me to eat ice cream.
I hate you.
It's the Wally Show.
Okay, so I have to ask you, was that a planned punchline or was that an organic punchline?
No, we don't ever plan punchlines. Like, okay. I'm fortunate enough to work in a room with 4 funny people, all differently funny. Mm-hmm. And so we'll come up with the concept of where we're starting, where we want to go. Like, I usually have an out in my head for something if it doesn't go somewhere else. The beauty of doing this job is when it goes somewhere else that you didn't, expect. Mm-hmm. So what you hear there is years of everybody working together, kind of a stereotype joke. And so Betty, talking about eating ice cream. And then the funny part of that, what makes it even funnier, it's the 2 guys on the show, not the other women on the show going, I hate you. And it's just in unison. And that's the organic part of this job, that when you get the right people in the right seat, that makes it work.
Well, and the fact that you both said it together made me think that it was planned, because I thought, how in the world could they have both said the same thing at the same time?
It's just, it's years in chemistry. I mean, that's the thing that you can't teach that. You can teach people to push the buttons, but chemistry is something you either have or you don't, and you build over time with each other. And it was, and that's not even like edited to make the joke faster or whatever. That was just kind of how that happened.
Now, as I listened to that, I thought, whoa, that was actually kind of a risky topic in the sense that you're talking about, fat people, what they can say to skinny people and stuff. what goes through your head as far as, okay, where is this line that I have to make sure I don't cross?
That's the trickiest thing inside of Christian radio. I've done every format from top 40 to alternative to modern rock. Coming here, comedy was the hardest thing because you have some lines that you can't cross and you have some parameters, you know, and it's hard to work inside of that because a lot of times comedy has a victim. And so, and you can look through the Bible a million places to try to find where it's okay to make fun of something, and it's not in there. Like, I've looked. So there's no biblical justification for it. So it's just, you have to chalk it up to, it's our culture. We have a sense of humor, and you just kind of take your shots. And you know, it's about learning your audience. Like, taking the shot at yourself first. Hey, I've struggled with weight. It's a thing that's for me. So that starts to disarm it. None of us, it's funny because it's two guys saying to a woman who we really love and cherish that we hate you, but it's all done in comedy and in the spirit of every day they have to believe that you like each other and that you're friends. And if they do that, somebody had told me once, they said, you know what, your show isn't like church, but it's like hanging out with my friends after church. And I'm like, there it is. That I wish I had written that marketing, because when they believe you're friends, you can jab at each other and poke at each other, and it's okay. But you have to test the lines of comedy, and you're gonna foul some off, and you're gonna learn to stay out of that zone. And others are gonna find you have a home run on it.
Great. One great humor tactic is taking a simple observation and magnifying it to ridiculous proportions. And Amy, I want to play this one break that you and Steve did that I think is just classic.
One positive thing about today being kind of behind this is that we won't have to listen to all those political ads.
Yes, especially the ones that sound like this. Fred Johnson hates puppies. He thinks puppies are stupid.
Ken Summers likes puppies. Cuddly, cuddly puppies with little wet noses.
Fred Johnson steals candy from children.
Ken Summers gives away full-size Snicker bars.
Fred Johnson still hates puppies. He really, really doesn't like puppies.
Ken Summers has 5 puppies with little waggly tails.
Fred Johnson, bad for puppies, bad for Texas.
Every time I hear that, I'm just dying. That was so incredibly clever. Tell me about the collaboration on this break. And I mean, I know you observed something and then you magnified it, but how did you bring it to air?
Yeah, you know, this is kind of like the whole Seinfeld sort of thing, you know, where you take something very simple and totally make it ridiculous. And it kind of just really is our culture, right? With the political stuff, you know, the bad guy's always in black and white, and then the good guy, well, he's with his family and his dog. And so it's kind of taking that and just really like zooming in. And so Steve kind of had his few things that he was going to say, and then I had mine. I was trying to be really ridiculous with the wiggly waggly tails, you know. Yeah. So it's just, you know, to me, it was kind of like everybody was really tired of hearing the political ads, and you know, we have to play them too. And so we get lots of complaints about them because it sounds like we support one or the other. And so, yeah, for that one, it was just really kind of trying to speak into what maybe people might be kind of sort of feeling, kind of the ridiculousness of all the political ads that we hear. So just trying to make fun of that a little bit.
And that's one that you can't just throw together in a second. So how long do you think it took you to, because that was really some good production there too.
Oh, well, we have a third person in the room. So he's our producer who kind of helps us out a little bit. So we'll come up with the audio part of that. He can start laying down the music for that, which thankfully he's incredibly helpful with that. And so we could go ahead and be moving on. Like we had the idea, we voiced it, have him start doing the music part of it, and we can go ahead and start moving on to the next break, and then come back to it, you know, a little bit later. When it's, you know, all nicely kind of produced and such. And so, yeah, so it doesn't actually take all that long. It's coming up with the ideas, you know, just kind of putting all of our thoughts together there is probably the longest, and then move on to the next thing.
Brilliant. You know, I think we need to collaborate, you know, as an industry too, and share some of these ideas, because you just take a seed thought, and not that you copy it, but you take the seed thought and then you kind of develop it with your own take on things.
Yes.
Excellent.
Totally agree with that. And, it is true because, different things can inspire you. Just listening to comedians, I will go and maybe I'll go and see a comedian somewhere. And inside I'm thinking, I love that joke. I want to repeat it. And I'm terrible at remembering jokes to ever repeat them. And so that I get them all wrong. So, but it might like spur an idea in my own head of like, oh, maybe we could do something with that.
Yeah.
So there's something to that of even kind of collaborating in that way, because we're all trying to do the same thing in different ways, trying to be creative. So yeah.
Excellent. Brilliant. Well, okay, Wally, talk about your thought process when you start show prepping. Are you looking for funny? Where do you start?
For me, like the best advice I can give anybody on their show, if you're starting a show or maybe you're just kind of going back and reinventing it, is I call it your filter. Find your filter. What is that thing that you want your show to be known for? So when you figure that out, then you funnel everything through that. As it so happens, my filter was funny. Like, I want our show to be known as funny. I certainly want it to be godly and spiritual and everything like that. But my default, I want funny. And so as I'm looking for content, that's what I'm typically looking for. My head always goes to the joke. What's the out, And so politics, very divisive, can burn you quickly. But we try to be nonpartisan when it comes to the politics and what the joke is. So I know sometimes I'm going to do a joke that's going to make half my audience angry, half are going to like it, but the joke's funny. And so, that's what my barometer is. So as I look for things, I look for things that are just out there. I look for things in my personal life. The best way for anyone to get content into our show is to tell me a story. Because if you tell me a story and it starts making me laugh, my mind starts going. I go, okay, here's how we're going to spin that. Here's how we're going to use that as a whole segment. We'll roll this into phones. And so content is king, and I'm always looking for something that I can spin into something that, for me, again, that typically is funny. That's my default.
Now, you touched on something that I want to ask you about, because you said there's a bunch of people that are going to be offended and a bunch of people that are going to think it's hilarious. How do you know how to filter that feedback properly to know if you perhaps crossed a line or need to rethink or what?
Oh boy, that's a great question. I got this wrong for a lot of years because I used to just get into these arguments with people, and it would ruin my day. It would ruin their day. It looked nothing like Jesus by the 10th email, and stuff. And so, and it's bad. Like, and I'm the biggest culprit. Like I said, I was trained how to argue and fight in radio, and then you come to Christian radio, totally different. So I had to start learning how to read through what someone's saying, have some grace. Give them that grace and go, hey, look, you know what? We're trying to do comedy here and there, and sometimes we miss the mark. And if I feel like I've missed the mark, I'll tell somebody, hey, you know what? Even when I said that, I felt like it was out of bounds. But if I don't think that I did, I never apologize for something that I'm never going to, and I always tell people, I'm not going to placate you with an insincere apology. I'm going to tell you why I felt it. I'll explain the joke, where it came from. If you still don't think it's funny, that's fine. Comedy is subjective. But I don't believe in just sending out emails to apologize to people. I don't like it when PDs do that. And they're like, we're so sorry. We'll discuss this with them. And fortunately, I'm in a place that they don't do that. They understand, hey, it's humor. Some people are going to get bent, and we need to support our talent, and that's their default is that now, which I absolutely love. But in the places where you do miss, the best thing you can do is own it, and own it on the air too. Like, I've done that before, man. Hey, man, we did this thing yesterday. I'll play a clip of it again, and just to get a second hit out of it, because I really thought it was funny. But then go, look, I did miss the mark here. I shouldn't have done that. So that's one of the ways we handle it.
Do you ever have an idea that you want to run with, but you're just not exactly sure what angle to go, and you just kind of sit on it for a while until that strikes you?
I have a stack of papers. I work in stacks on my desk. I have a stack of papers that are miscellaneous content or sticky notes and stuff. I have things on my phone. I'm constantly looking for that, and I hold it. If I don't have a direct angle, I hold it until something in the world pops up that connects with, and I'm like, great, now I have a bit, or now I have a segment. I run things by the people on our show. If none of us can come up with an angle on it, then we know there's nothing there. you know, but somebody else has an angle, you'll go, great, we're going to take your angle because that's the way to go. So that's my barometer or my litmus test is the people around me. If we're going to throw out a topic or something and none of us have an interesting take, the odds of someone in their car with 20 other things going on, of them having an interesting take, it's not going to happen.
Excellent. I want to share a break that Amy did. This is just Amy and Steve, another brilliant use of observational humor with some production elements added. So give this one a listen.
I'm just wondering if the person who ever said easy like Sunday mornings ever in fact took their kids to church on Sunday mornings.
I am not sure about that.
I'm just wondering that. You know?
Oh yeah, imagine how nice this sounds like. It's so relaxing.
Feels great.
On our way to church, everybody's smiling, they're all dressed on time. We get there in plenty of time. It's so easy.
No. This is what our Sunday morning sounds like. It sounds more like this. Get your shoes on! Why are you going to the bathroom right now?
Why did you go 10 minutes ago when it was open to?
We've got 2 minutes! 2 minutes!
Don't you love listening to your breaks back, Amy? It's like an haircut session.
Oh my gosh.
Tell me about that break.
Yeah. So, well, I saw like a sign and it made me think of my own, that happened on a Monday morning that we did that break. And so it was definitely fresh in my mind. We have a 8, 9, and 14-year-old. And so literally getting everybody ready for church on a Sunday morning is incredibly stressful and opposed to what you might think once everybody's walking in the door. I was looking at everybody with kids and I was like, yeah, I know what you guys actually went through this morning, despite the way you look. And so I thought, there's something we could probably do with that. I mean, a lot of stuff, for us is truly just taken out of, what just happened to one of us, because we feel like if we repeat it we kind of use each other for a filter, and we've got a third person in the room that we're able to kind of use as an extra filter too. And if we're able to kind of throw it out there and if it kind of clings on to one of us, then we'll try to take it somewhere. And so that's kind of what happened with that one.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, the best stuff comes from your real life. Like you can have prep services and you can twist that and find a camera angle on it, and that's great. But usually the best stuff is something that originates from something that has just happened to you. Like the other day, I bought a woman's coat by mistake. It was in the men's section, I will say that, and it was really cool. And it looks like the guys in For King and Country would wear it. So I'm like, I bought it. And to which my co-host was like, why would you think you could pull that off? So we did a whole thing on that topic and we posted it. I took a picture, people commented on it, were very mean, which is funny. And then I'm making fun of myself. And then we capped it with a clip from the office of when Michael Scott bought a women's power suit by mistake. And so I think that's a key. Like we talk about, if you don't feel your show is like wicked funny, then what you do is you set up your scenario. And then if you find audio bits and things from other people that dovetail with that, you can cap your bit with that and end with that. Let them be the funny. Don't come back and talk about it afterwards. Let it just stand as like your capper. And that's a good way to introduce humor into your show if that's not like your sweet spot.
What do you do on those days? Either one of you can answer this. What do you do on one of those days when you just really are not in the zone? You feel like you don't have anything that's going to fly, that's going to be funny. What do? Do you air old stuff? Do you just what?
No. I don't know. For me, it's like you push through it, and something that can break you out of that is you try something that doesn't work and you let it fail, because there's something funny sometimes in the failure if you can spin it. Like Carson And even Fallon, like they're great when they do a joke and it bombs. So if you're having that bad day where you're just a little off, it's like, don't pull off, the gas. Go ahead, have one fail. You'll laugh through it. Your team will laugh you through it. And then it's going to start changing your mindset, and you'll go to your next joke and it's going to land.
Yeah, I would definitely echo some of what Wally just said. You have to just push through it. And honestly, it's kind of like your spouse. There's days it is going to be off for them and maybe not for you. And you just kind of pick up wherever each one is kind of feeling short that day. And then it's kind of contagious, right? Because you're partners. And so there is something contagious in that. I mean, there's been times before where I mispronounced the name of the artist, and then Steve would just horribly make fun of me, and then that was it. Like that was the end. Like we got out after that, and that ended up being our funny thing, because he had a funny little thing to say about the way I just said that, and clearly I was discombobulated, but he was able to make something funny out of it, and we just went with it. So there's going to be those days. And go with them, just kind of lean into them, even when those days happen.
One thing I've noticed from both of your shows is how good the co-host does when you're telling the story. The people that are on with you don't try to upstage. Now, Wally, since you're always sharing the stories, it's important that your people do that. But Amy, you and Steve take turns. And what I love is, and I think a lot of people do this by mistake in their shows, is if one's sharing a story, the next one thinks of a funny line and they try to throw it in there. And then it completely derails the person who's originally telling the story. But I want to play an example of a story that you're telling about a Christmas party and how Steve just tracks right along with you, Amy.
My husband had his office Christmas party. It was really fun. It was nice. Everybody kind of dressed up, but then off in the corner, we have a huge screen of the Cowboys playing in the corner.
You don't want to miss the game.
I'm grateful they didn't have the sound on, except that the guys, every now and then, just randomly in the room, you'd hear a, "Whoa!"
That's your impression, huh?
Yeah, kind of like that.
It is kind of a unique thing. I mean, you don't see women, watching a Hallmark movie going, "Oh, come on! He said he loves you!"
Or, "Money isn't everything,
What's the matter with you? Marry him already!"
That's so good. So you actually both had an element to share in that story, but while you were talking, he was very attentive to you, and while he was talking, you were attentive. Talk about that, unpack that a little bit, and talk about what's the best thing to have in the people that are on the show with you when you're telling a story.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, when the person that you're with looks good, you look good too. and that's just the truth. You have an opportunity to truly allow each other to look good. It only makes the show better. And so, no, I really appreciate that. I mean, Steve is, he's really funny. He's got really quick, comebacks, and he's really funny. And so, when we're telling a story like that, like we kind of knew sort of where we were going with that. He had the thought about the Hallmark Channel, because that was kind of his version of what, maybe us women would be doing off in the corner if we were at some party. It's like, no, we wouldn't do that. So yeah, giving each other the opportunity to do that. And, ultimately, taking a first exit, taking that first one, not trying to have the one more line, which is something, honestly, we both continue to work on that. There are times that we'll finish a break and be like, oh, we should have gotten out like one line ago. So, we'll still have, every now and then we'll still have something that happens like that, but it's still like in progress, I guess, forever in progress, right?
For sure.
Well, it takes discipline, and it takes discipline, like in our scenario where I'm kind of the main, it takes a lot of restraint from my second and my third person on my show to know when to take their shot. But what happens is their shooting average is so good because when they do come on, it's a home run. Like they kill it. And so them learning what to hold on to and what to then interject is a testament to how great all of these people are. And so what I do is I try to create this attitude of giving where I don't care who gets the out. It doesn't have to be me like that. And they all know that. It's like funniest line wins and we go. And so when you create that world, it pushes everybody to make sure that when they're adding to it, that their line is going to be the funny one and that it's going to be good. And if they're even remotely sure and unsure, they hold on to it. But it takes time to build that, and trust.
All right, here's one of yours, Wally. Listen.
The Wally Show.
Coming up, 5 calls it, and I want to get your opinion on if something that I said to a lady at a concert was creepy or not. And I was trying to be nice. I was trying to be complimentary, but sometimes it goes awry. So we'll get your thoughts on that.
Can we vote now?
No, you have to at least hear it.
It's the Wally Show.
Yeah, so we're just doing a quick promote of something coming up. And then there's funny inside of promotes. That's the thing. You can throw away, pre-promotes and stuff, but you can also use them as something that's funny. And that's a moment where it happens. And they knew that I was going to tell this story, that ultimately I would say I was vindicated by listeners that I was not creepy. But it's funnier if they take the shot at me. And so the key in comedy is you got to be willing to be the butt of the joke. It doesn't matter if your name's on the show or not. You got to be willing to take the shot, especially if you dish them out, because that humanizes you. And I'm fair game as much as anybody else on our show because we tease a lot. It's our love language.
The other risk that I think you take is when you have guests on the show, like you had Tim Tebow on. You never know if the guest, is going to track with you where you're headed. And so sometimes you kind of have to take what they say and run with it. So here's another great example of that.
The Wally Show.
We're talking to former NFL quarterback, current professional baseball player, New York Times best-selling author Tim Tebow about his new book, This Is the Day. And I like how each chapter starts out with, this is the day to say I love you, to leave the past behind, to listen to the right voice. Were there any This Is the Days that you thought of after the book was done and you're like, oh, I should have done This Is the Day to just eat carbs or something like that?
Wally, there's never a good day to just eat carbs, okay? So you can calm down with that.
That's basically Wally's entire life.
Well, maybe this is the day to start a diet then, okay?
Maybe this is the day you shush up. How about that, Tim Tebow?
It's the Wally Show.
I am so mad at myself for that break still to this day because I soft pedaled it and I said, you shush up, Tim Tebow. The funnier word is you shut up, Tim Tebow. That makes it funnier. But in my head, that stupid filter of there's a kid in a car that this mom doesn't want her kid to learn the word shut up. And so in my head, there are filters constantly about being aware of the audience that we're talking to. The joke should have been, you shut up, Tim Tebow, but I pulled up on that one. I'm still upset with myself for that comedic.
Don't be. I think
so good.
It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I hate me.
Okay, you guys, I want you to each give a bit of advice to somebody who wants to put more fun in their show. What would you recommend?
I think if you feel like you're not very funny, so I feel like that's me. I feel like I'm not very funny, but I start the practice of recognizing the funny. And so if you feel like you might be a little like that, to start actually, it's like exercising a muscle, right? And the more toned it'll start getting when you start kind of recognizing it. So always be looking at the funny within each other, within your life. I'll make notes because as something just sort of little might happen, and it's little enough to where it might just like pass by and be done, but I'll make little notes to myself throughout the day. So I keep like a catalog of notes throughout the day that will remind me about something that will happen that I can throw at my team the next morning and say, what do you think about this? And I'll kind of throw it out and we'll decide whether or not there might be something to it or not. But just start kind of exercising, recognizing it. If it's enough to make you laugh, see how you can change it, move it, manipulate it to be something that could actually, make a break.
I think too, being honest about yourself and your abilities. If people haven't been telling you, my goodness, you're hysterical like most of your life, then it's like, you know what? Maybe that's not my skill set, but I can be a great straight man for somebody else. Find those other people around you that are funny and celebrate them. Make them the star of the show, you know, and lay down your own ego and cultivate that in people. Watch comedians. Like when I get stuck, because we all get stuck creatively, I'll never steal a joke from anybody, but I use it as a thing to remind me of how to think. Comedians look at the world in a twisted way, and there's a difference between what they do even and what we do. And so for me, it's a good primer to, hey, let me see how they're looking at the world, and it might inspire you to look at the world a little bit differently. But if you can still have a fun show that is, you know, relevant to people's lives without being the funniest show, but find elements that make it funny and bring those in to the show, you know, whether it's somebody else, whether it's some clips, you know, try not to use comedy service bits because those are usually horrible. But like, you know, from other people that are, you know, well-known comedians that are funny, you can work that kind of stuff in a way where it dovetails. Like, never just do, hey, it's the 5 o'clock funnies and we're going to play a comedian bit. But if you're talking about a horrible experience you had on your life on a plane, and you've got a comedian that has an experience, you just tie those two together. Let them get the out then, you know? Yeah. And I'll add to what Wally's saying, because I think all of that is really great. Are you mansplaining me? What's that? Yes, just pretend I just said what Wally said. But so there's someone who commented, which this is an interesting thought. Maybe Wally, you might have some ideas about this, but I have a morning show but no co-host. I shoot for funny and laugh at myself a lot. The thing I would say about that is that I've often thought, you know, what would I do, or if I am by myself, what do I do? I really try to lean into listeners too, because, you know, it's interesting. You know, you have all the editing power available. So you can sit there and play with the listener for quite a while and kind of see and poke around to see what you can get from a listener on the phone call, and kind of poke there and see if maybe there might be something with listeners, if you wanted to shoot for something like that. Obviously, clips of things that are going on that are current. There's always like current you know, things that are going on that you can say, oh, I wonder if there's any audio to this current thing that I saw, and maybe we can make something out of that. Plus, this is the business of C students and dysfunctional people. I guarantee you only have to walk 2 doors down your office to find somebody that's kind of a train wreck and utilize them. Make them a star in your show. Give them purpose. Give them focus and structure. Like, we do this all the time. If you don't have a lot of people on your show, find people in the building, and they're usually interesting people. Your engineer, your front desk person, your sales guy. You start asking questions and you find, oh my goodness, this is perfect for them to do a bit, and you make it a regular thing. We do that all the time. I like that.
I know there may be questions, and I think, Michelle, you're going to jump in and
yes. Yeah, I got a couple questions for you guys, okay? So the first thing is, somebody asked Wally, the line that you said, which I thought was brilliant, about your show is more like people hanging out with their friends after church. Is that something you actually use on the air?
You know, at one time, somebody else told us this, like I didn't make it up, and at one time we started to fashion it like into a sweeper years ago. And I just don't. I took it away as a really good anecdote of how to approach what I do. Not to be overly spiritual, you know, to be funny, be relatable, you know, and so it became kind of an unwritten mantra in the show.
So he wants to know if he can use it, actually, is what it comes down to.
He wants to steal it. Yeah, you know, have someone at least say it to you first so you know it's real about your show. Like, that's the thing. Like, I didn't make that up, but that was somebody telling us that, you know, like that's the key. You still want everything to be genuine and authentic to who you are, you know?
Okay, here's another question. Who hits the button and determines the outs? Like Amy, you were saying, like sometimes you don't always take the first out, which of course is definitely a Tommy Kramer thing. So, but for who hits the button and determines the out?
We've gotten really a lot better about this, but Tommy has been very good about pointing out when we're bad. We've got somebody that runs the board for us who is incredibly tight. Normally, that it would probably be better if one of us was running the board, but we have a really good guy that's very tight with it, and we're able to point. And so we both know if one of us hears an out. So if he hears the out from me and I don't recognize it in myself, he'll hit it. Or if I recognize the out in him and he doesn't recognize it, I hit it. And so we kind of do that for each other.
That's good.
Yeah, and I run the board, and so like for me, it's just that feel thing of when it's time to go, it's time to go. And in true Tommy Kramer fashion, I've missed a few outs in my day.
Okay, so right now, Wally, how many are on your team to do the morning show?
We have myself and 3 other people. So I'm beyond blessed in radio in general, much less in Christian radio. I fully understand that's not the norm. And it's 3 people that work on this show. They don't have 25 other jobs. And so I'm thankful every day for that, because it lets us just create what I think is a really good product and get a lot of other input. But that's not the norm. But it's not to say you can't do it. Zach and I built our show together, 2 people, 13 years ago, and we did everything. We did every job, and we worked like dogs to get it done. So it's totally doable. It just takes extra work.
And all 4 of you have a role on the show, so your listeners are very familiar with all of you then. And Amy, it's you and Steve, and that's it, right?
That's right. For our show, it's just the 2 of us, and then we have our producer and also guy that runs the board for us. And Steve also he has an additional job where he's also the program director. So he has an additional duty after the show. And then for our producer, he mostly just does stuff for the morning show.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys make characters out of those other people? Because that's one of the things that we would do too. Like if your board op, it has a quirk to him, you make him a character and you have him do things that are in his wheelhouse. Like our producer, we just hired a new producer because Zach's moving up in the company to do digital stuff overall. And so Gavin's new. And we, like day 1, we had him on the air doing stuff because we're like, this is how you learn, and there's always interesting things with people.
That's so good. Now for ours, he's really great about adding to or giving suggestions. As far as being on the air, we don't feel like we're quite there with that. But that could be something definitely in the future. It's something that we sort of talked about and we've even played with a little bit. We just don't feel like we're quite there yet.
Okay, here's the last question. Amy, you mentioned filters. How do you gauge when it's appropriate to loosen on those and hold tight to others? I was once told, always err on the side of safe. Would you agree with that?
Oh, see, I'm probably a looser filter than Steve. He's probably the tighter filter. And so I might say something that maybe sort of like, we could get a complaint or 2 about that. And then Steve will say something like, is it worth it? And then it just kind of makes us think about it. Is it worth it? And we've gone forward and said, yeah, it's worth it. But we've also decided before, I don't know if it's funny enough to be worth it. So sometimes it is funny enough to be worth it. And so I think that you really have to decide, go ahead and get ready, think to yourself, what is it? Is it something that's really inappropriate, or is it something that's it's just not worth it? So it's got to be, worth you doing it for the complaints.
Yeah. Wally, would you say the same thing?
Yeah, I think that everybody has their own filter, and my filter tends to be loose as well, because I'm used to handling complaints. I've turned it into a lost art. And so, like, I don't get wigged out by it anymore because I have support from the company. That's a big thing. That's a big thing that determines your filter, is if your company supports you, you can have a little bit looser filter, but you got to be smart. Like, there are definitely things that I know I've learned. It's just not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze. And I don't feel like having the fights all day, about something. And so for me, I just tend to look at it like, is it worth the way I answer the question, is it worth my time after the show to deal with this? And if I say yes, then fine. I know it's the right thing to do. And if I say no, I'd rather work on 10 other things, then I don't do it.
Yeah. What about you, Lisa? What would you say to that? Because you are on extraordinaire.
You know, my filter is loose, and I am definitely a people pleaser. So if I ever hurt anybody's feelings or offend them, it's a heavy burden. So I think long and I think hard before I share anything that I think is kind of on the edge. But definitely, you know, if you skew sarcastic like I do, you just live in that danger zone in a way. So always need the fences, but I kind of bust out of them once in a while too.
I like that she's like, I think long and hard. I react and apologize.
Well, you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights with us today. We appreciate it. CMB will be back on May 8th for our next CMB webinar. So thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.